Welcome back. We still continue with our coverage of the 2016 municipal elections, and this time taking a look at business, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And with us in the studio, we've got the head of Business Leadership South Africa, Saki Makazoma. And
Whoa. Let's say that again, Saki Makazoma. Makazoma.
Sorry,
there we
I apologize. And in Cape Town, we have Mr. Martin Ackerman. Good, hello, how are you? He's an advisory partner and investment strategist at Citadel. So nice to get you both here. We'll talk straight about business. We were just chatting before we came on now. So you think Nelson Mandela Bay, Tshwane, what's your proposal there? What do you think?
I was saying that I think that if there is going to be change, it may be a coalition. There may be coalition governments in one of the two cities, Nelson Mandela and Tshwane. I think Joburg is probably safe for the ANC, in spite of some of the polls that you're hearing. The most likely change that's to be there, in my view, is maybe coalition governments. And it's interesting reading in the media that political parties may already be talking about coalitions.
And you think it might be quite a good thing in the long term?
Yes and no. It's a good thing if people learn to co-govern. It's a bad thing if they have a stalemate where no decision gets taken because nobody has got the sufficient majority. And so therefore you can have a paralysis. And the paralysis is as bad, in fact, is bad for, because there's no decisions get taken.
Okay. We go to Cape Town now, sorry, to Martin Ackerman. This has been called the business election. A lot of business people are concerned about who's going to run the municipalities. What's your view?
Yeah, I fully agree. I think we're in an environment right now where, the past couple of years, actually since 2011, our economic growth started to slip. We've seen a lack of trust and confidence in the local economy, and as a result of that, also in business. And that not all of it, but a lot of it boils down to policy and the environment that we operate in. And I think everybody is looking for some certainty going forward. So, and it's also not just South Africans. I think we've experienced that from foreigners as well. We know that foreigners are very keen to come in and out of our country, and we see a direct impact on things like our currency. But where we are today, I think everyone is looking for a little bit of certainty in terms of where we're heading, especially for business on the ground. And I think this election can give that to us. I think everybody wants to know, will this continue like we've experienced it over the past couple of years? Or will we see a slight turn in whatever direction that will give us guidance in terms of the way forward for the next couple of years?
Martin, Gugu here with Chris, and I want to pick up on a theme that we highlighted with Saki, which is coalition governments, which does clearly seem like a significant opportunity that could take place following the results of this election. How does this impact policy clarity when it comes to perhaps a lack of cooperation or implementation between two parties? And given the fact that you're an investment strategist, clearly this might not be something that business would want.
Well, I think what business is looking for at this point in time is clarity. That's always been the case from business planning, from economic planning, from making investment decisions. As long as you've got some clarity in terms of who's in charge, what they would like to achieve, and how they think they will achieve that over time. So we again talking about policy. That can be a single party. There's no need that it should be a coalition or partnerships. But I do think where we are in South Africa right now, the democracy is actually quite strong. And we've got some very strong parties that's got maybe very different views. But if we can get together, and it's all about creating the right incentives and the right environment. And then you can actually get business doing quite well within that environment. But you can also get that business or private sector and the government can work together to achieve many of these objectives. So I think where we are today, given some of the issues we've experienced over the past couple of years, whether it's deliveries issues, whether it's social tension, we are at a point where we can actually get together and say, well, is there ways to work together that can actually help us to deliver more efficiently going forward? And yes, it's not only the responsibility of government. I think government should provide the policy for us to operate in. but it is also very much up to business to actually come to the party and contribute to a better South Africa for all.
We're going to talk more about business in a second, but first some more film that's coming in from the field. It was a cold winter's morning in Soweto, Johannesburg. Hundreds of people have flocked into voting stations to cast their votes for the 2016 municipal elections. Soweto is the historic township where many anti-apartheid heroes like Nelson Mandela and Hector Peterson came from. It is also said that whomever takes Soweto will take Johannesburg.
This is a historic day in the history of South Africa as people are casting their municipal votes for 2016. Right now, we're in Sepubuso Primary School in Soweto. As you can see behind me, there are hundreds of people queuing, the young, the older, all here to cast their votes so that they can see service delivery in Soweto.
I'm here to vote so that my voice to be heard.
After seeing that there have been a lot of protests around the area for service delivery and everything, I decided to come and vote so that I can make a change in the community.
If you're not happy with the current leadership, vote for the one that you think can work better for you.
I'm voting because I want to change in our community, in our country. I want to see a lot of things changing. Like, we don't have housing here in Soweto. We don't have enough electricity.
It means it will keep the government in check so that they know next time when they don't deliver, people will have the power to remove them.
We need jobs. Our youth is out there. People have degrees, people have qualifications, but they're still there. If they could at least, I know it's not easy for them to give everyone a job, but at least 50% of our current matriculates and our graduates to get jobs.
So it's a message to the government to say we are voting, whoever's going to win, but it's accountable to the masses that put them into power in the first place.
People are not employed. We want to see our youth being employed, as we can see that they're just lingering around the streets. We want change, in fact.
But I'm sure the voters will make the right choice.
And that's what we hope for, voters making the right choice. But let's get further analysis now on the ground with Ancilla Mangena, who is still in Soweto. Ancilla, what's the latest update there? Are queues still managing to move by quite swiftly?
Hello, Gugu. I can't hear you properly. It's a bit windy here. Can you come again, please?
What's the latest update with regard to the municipal elections?
In Soweto, it's been a rather cold day, but the interesting thing is that we've spoke to some elderly people here who are unable to vote today. They're saying that they registered and they've been voting at this particular school since 1994. But then when they arrived this morning, they were told that their names are not on the voters' roll. So they went home very devastated because they couldn't vote. So it brings a question of what happened to their names. And one other person said that they were told that they're already dead. And he says, I'm here, and here's my ID. How am I dead when I'm here? So we've had those interesting things going on. And also at this particular station in Soweto, we had a few disruptions earlier on because of queues, etc. Because Soweto is such a big place, and there's so many people coming out to vote. So people were waiting for 2-3 hours, and they were getting frustrated by the long wait. But slowly we saw the queue starting to move up.
Thank you very much. That's Ancilla Mangena, Forbes Africa journalist, giving us the latest from Soweto. We're back in the studio now. In this business election, I've been talking to a lot of small businesses in the last week or so in the preparation of this election. And a lot of them are out there, they're screaming, as it were. They say that there's not enough support, not enough infrastructure. They complain about corruption in the municipalities and what have you. These are very bad and rough times for business in this country. How do you see it?
Yes, they are. They are very tough times. It has been pointed out by your guest earlier on that the decline of the economy has been started around 2011. It has continued at a steady pace since then. And obviously, the impact on the ground is very serious. I do get concerned, though, sometimes when we try to resolve fundamental economic questions and problems with municipal elections. It is natural for people to want to solve every problem with one X. But the reality is that if one understands the political system and the political process, there are various levels at which these things are resolved. And I would accept the argument that says you have to start with the local government elections because that's where the action takes place. But in the final analysis, to have an expectation that the mayor of Tshwane or the mayor of Pampunsfontein is going to solve the decline of the economy is not realistic. But what is realistic is to make sure that you get the right person and the right people in that locality to make sure what needs to be done at the local level is done.
Regarding what we want to hear from business, it's obviously the necessary outcomes from the local government elections, and certainty always comes up, and that applies to even a national and global perspective. How do we then ensure that the certainty is created and filters down to the local government space? Are we seeing that from a government perspective? Is there sufficient participation and conversation between both sectors, private as well as public, as to how to create this enabling environment of certainty?
Yes, I think there are pockets where there are conversations taking place. For instance, at the business leadership level, there's a CEO process with the finance ministry and minister. But I don't believe that there is sufficient contact and understanding at local level, since we're talking about local government elections. That area normally, ordinarily, is covered by your chambers of commerce. And the chambers of commerce tend to be quite fractured. So you would have in one town the Sake Kamer, you would have the AHI, you would have FAPCOS, you would have NAFCOC, etc., etc. The consequence of that is that the collective voice of business is not heard as much as. And in my view, it is not just sitting across the table with the local leaders. It is also working with them. What needs to be done immediately? What's in the medium term? What's in the long term? What is the competitiveness, for instance, of the city of Port Elizabeth relative to others, relative to its industrial base? Those are decisions that need to be taken at the local level in terms of the chambers of commerce. But those chambers of commerce quite often lack the capacity to engage.
Okay, I want to talk more about business in a moment, but we're going back to the IEC in Pretoria, where Karabo Ratlakla is standing by with one of the big names in the ruling party in South Africa, Jesse Duarte.
Thank you very much, Chris. I am standing right here with one of the top 6 of the ANC. I am with the Deputy Secretary General, Mrs. Jesse Duarte. Jesse, how are you?
I'm well, thank you very much.
How did you feel about the course you ran? Some say you ran a very extensive left no stone unturned as the ANC. How do you feel about the campaign thus far?
We ran a very intensive campaign, vigorous. We decided that every voter counts and that every vote must be solicited for. We worked incredibly hard throughout the country. We went door to door. We had a system which was going door to door and ending up with a mini rally in every ward of the country. So approximately 5,000 odd meetings held in every community. But before that, going to every house and saying, the ANC is here. Have you any questions to ask us? Is there anything you'd like to say? We found that people readily told us that they were quite happy with the basic service delivery that the ANC was providing, except, of course, in informal settlements where it is difficult at times to provide basic services where you can't do so underground and you have to do it above ground, at times water delivery and as well as electricity. But we focused our minds on local issues, and we did not run a national campaign, and we made a deliberate choice not to insult any other political party's leaders, because we believe that is not the way South Africa needs to go. So we didn't focus on anyone else. We focused on ourselves, what we can and will offer. And also, as you know, we've had some challenges with regard to the depth of our own internal democracy, where we choose our candidates in a very different way. And of course, at times, those who lose are the ones who protest afterwards. But we've overcome those problems. So it's been a long road. It's been a very good road for us. You know, when you are able to have a conversation directly with the voter, that's the best situation any political party can find themselves in. And that's what we've done.
I wanted to ask you, staying with the voter, that when you, because I felt like the party went down to all the people of this country. Like I said, you left no stone unturned. And in your quest, I wonder what you found from the voter. What is the voter looking for that the movement was not necessarily aware of?
There isn't much we're not aware of. We're very connected to the ground in this country. We reconfirm the fact that the most pressing concern is job creation. And in that regard, what we've decided is that we must, without hesitation, move swiftly into local economic development as a key goal for the ANC in the next 5 years. And that local municipalities that are going to be run by the ANC will make that their #1 priority. We will improve the delivery and cost of services, because one of the things that is abundantly clear, and it always has been, is that because the economy is not growing fast enough, people have very little money that they can move around. And so the last thing they think about paying is for services. So what we need to do is to look at that. Obviously, we have to have some form of payment for services. But what we cannot do is make our people poorer. Already we provide 6,000 kiloliters of water to the poor. We provide some electricity free to poor people. We have an indigent book for the poor. But we really do need to look at how we can get people to pay for the services, make sure it is affordable and constant. And that's the most important thing. So our focus has been directly on local government issues. And we also found people were focusing on themselves and local issues and not focusing on international or great national issues or personalities at all. As you stepped into a door, the first thing people would say, I want to tell you about what's happening here in my home. And we would listen. And so, you know, it's been a little different to other political campaigns that we've run. And it's also helped us to consolidate what our program ought to be.
Part of the thing about a movement like the African National Congress is that it's so big that it ultimately becomes everybody's business to know what's going on in the movement. Now, leading up to the elections, it seemed like the ANC was not quite as united, but you managed to bring together all these voices, that some discerning voices, some voices that did not necessarily go with the party line. You were able to bring these voices together. How was that achieved? And is there party harmony right now?
There is harmony within the ANC. Of course, achieving unity in a diverse organization like the ANC is a big problem. Most political parties have internal factions that are difficult to overcome and undo. We've been doing a lot of discussion about the damage that factions cause. We've also had to talk to some of our older cadre in the organization who, when they lost the Mangaung elections, remained very bitter. And what we've said to them is, you know, there's always tomorrow in the ANC. And that's what we all have to remember. There's always tomorrow, not only in the ANC, but in the country as a whole. So sometimes you may win to be the councillor, sometimes not. Sometimes you're going to get onto the NEC and sometimes not. But every 5 years, there will be elections in the ANC and there will be elections in the country. And this is what we're inculcating, a need for people to understand that democracy is a constant turning wheel. It doesn't stop to wait for anybody to catch up, you know. You're either on it or you're not, and it's the will of the people that counts. And I must say there's a maturity in the ANC now. Many people are understanding, and that's what assisted us to bring people back together. It only goes with dialogue, talking.
Now, the young people have been out there very vocal, and they have questions ranging from voter education to how they want the ANC to address their issues. What is your message to those people?
There's no doubt that the future is in their hands. And the ANC is also a very youthful ANC, by the way. We're not an ANC of many, many older people left. The ANC's average age right now is between the age of 18 and 45. So it's a young ANC, it's a youthful ANC. And we're also reflecting that in the leadership that we're electing into the councils, in the municipalities. Many young people are going to be mayors. So the aspirations and hopes of young people will be carried by young people who think like other young people. However, this doesn't mean that the ideological perspective of the ANC is going to be sold in any direction. You know, zappy dudes coming along and saying this doesn't work. You know, to actually reach a national democratic revolution's goals of a non-racial, non-sexist, united, prosperous and democratic South Africa is what we stand by solidly. And that is what makes us different from any other political party. And we believe that the young people who've come to the ANC begin to understand that. And they're enthused by that. What they do care about right now is they're educated, they're connected to each other and the world more so than ever before in their lives. They want jobs. And so that's our critical quest for the future.
My final question to you, Comrade Jesse. With regards to the campaign itself, it's been very polarizing from all sides. I felt like this has been the most bruising election I have ever noticed. How do we get back when the time of work starts again, post these elections? What do you say to ANC councillors who will have to work with some of the people that they were in a mudslinging contest with?
You know, that's the reality of democracy. During the campaign, you fight. And after the campaign, you return back to being solid South African citizens, working on the same factory floor, working in the same offices, drinking from the same water fountain in your office. So that's what we must remember, is that we have preferences and we're allowed to have those preferences. And the right of association has been granted to us through hard struggle. Many people have lost their lives for that right. And what we need to do is to remember that we're not enemies of each other. We're opposition parties. The ANC's quest is to unite this country. And every ANC member has to remember that they carry that responsibility. We may differ with people. We may not agree with them on any issue, but we still have the responsibility to build a nation and to unite the South African nation, and to respect that diversity is in fact strength. It's not a weakness.
Thank you, Comrade Jesse. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
And with that, it's back to you in studio.
Thank you. That's Karabo Letlatla, our man in the IEC in Pretoria. Just a quick reaction. You heard what she was saying there. It seems that the ANC's taking it all very calmly. What's going on today?
Yeah, I think it's natural that on voting day you've got to be calm. There's not much more that you can do if you've done all the preparatory work. The next thing, of course, is to make sure and monitor that the people are actually going to the polls, because that's another factor in the turnout. And I agree with most of what Jesse Tuwata was saying.
Just before we do take an ad break, let's go to Martin in Cape Town. And Martin, a topic, an area that I hope to explore after the break in a lot more detail is that for businesses, obviously participating in the local government elections allows them the opportunity to have their say. But from recent reports from the likes of Grant Thornton, it seems as though there's still significant concerns regarding service delivery, as well as creating an enabling environment where businesses and economic opportunities will continue to thrive. What additional steps do we need to focus on to make sure that where the techie hits the tar, we're in a phenomenal position to exploit growth opportunities in South Africa, other than just making an X today in the elections?
Yeah, if you see, the election, I think, is just the starting point in terms of what kind of policy you can expect going forward. In terms of fixing growth in South Africa, you know, there's a lot more that we can do. Unfortunately, growth in South Africa at the moment is under severe pressure as a result of local issues, but also global issues. You know, South Africa is a very open economy, so there's a direct link between us and the rest of the world. So as we know, the rest of the world is struggling. We see all-time low or even negative interest rates. So while the world is struggling, that puts us already in a very bad position. And then if you come back home, you know, we need to fix a lot of structural issues that will longer term help us to actually lift up growth. So if you think about the lack of growth in South Africa right now, I think that is probably one of the major concerns for the rating agencies as well. Because if you've got a very low growth environment you don't have the right environment to actually lift that growth to a much more sustainable level, it actually means also that government is collecting less tax off a lower growth environment, which again puts their government finances under pressure. So I think that is definitely something that the rating agencies are focusing on as well. And that brings us back to the first question you've asked in terms of what does this election mean. And I think everyone is looking at this election to say, well, is there anything here, and it's not something that you will see overnight, but is there anything here that can come out that might be different and that might point us into a direction that longer term we might see more growth positive policies coming out of, whether it's from the ground in the different municipalities or the different districts or regions, right up to national government level. I think that's what everyone is hoping for and looking for coming from this election.
Well, we'll certainly continue with our coverage. We're going to take a quick ad break now, but when we come back, we get more insight and in-depth analysis on the business outcomes of the local government elections.
Stay with us.